Religiously divided household. Can it be happy? What if you have kids? How do you teach your kids? What to tell them? What not to tell them? How do you approach this subject? It is complicated. Well, I'm going to only share with you what I believe is right and what my experience was. I was born into a into a family with father being a Catholic and mother being a Jehovah's Witness. Therefore, it was a religiously divided household. It was not an easy thing because both parents, especially I was the only son, I got 3 sisters, both parents wanted the kids to follow them when it comes to religion. And my father really was hoping that at least me, because all my sisters are older than me, all 3 sisters follow my mother, and I was the youngest, I was like the only son, so like he was really hoping that I would follow his footsteps and become a Catholic. I was taken to both. I was taken to the Christmas parties. I was taken to church. I was taken to birthday parties when I was a little kid, and at the same time I was taken to the Kingdom Hall. And one day I had to make up my mind. And here's something interesting. My father chose to push. And because he pushed, and he kind of forcefully was trying to turn me into religion, it turned me away, not only from religion, but also from him. My mother, on the other hand, she was choosing love, kindness, and she was teaching me through stories, bedtime stories, and through whatever books that she was reading, like my book of Bible stories. There was one before that, I think Greatest Teacher or something like this. And I love those things because she was very kind when she was doing this. So I followed my mother. But it wasn't an easy path, to be honest with you, because my father put up a fight. I remember one time, he brought a priest to our home who was specially trained for Jehovah's Witnesses. Somebody who was trained in Vatican to get the witnesses out of the religion. The conversation, I remember, lasted for 3 days. 3 days, not 3 hours. 3 days conversation. And my mom was not there. It was just us, 4 kids. And guess what? 4 days later, the priest gave up. He's like, you know what? He told my father, I've never met kids in any of the churches I ever attended that would know the Bible as well as your kids. So he gave up, and my father kind of gave up at that point, partially. On Sundays, he still wanted us to at least listen to the Catholic mosque or whatever he was. He would blast the radio with the priest speaking, and he wanted to make sure that we all listened to it at home. But at the age of 9, I was 9 years old, when my mom decided, I can't take this anymore. Obviously, there was a lot more, not just a religion, but fighting between those two was daily. And it was mainly because of religion and money. Those two would not get along. Well, eventually my mom couldn't take it and she left. She came to Canada, and I was just 9 years old when she told me she's leaving. But she did something. It completely changed us as kids. Because I don't know about you, but if you have siblings or if you have kids who are young, the kids are usually fighting. They don't get along, and we were not exception. We were fighting all the time, especially me and my sister, who was the closest, just 1 year older than me. We were fighting like crazy. And then one day, mom is telling us, hey, I'm not gonna be here, I'm gonna leave. And truthfully, we did not know when she's coming back. She said maybe a year from now, we'll see. Wow, that's a tough thing to swallow. But she did something quite interesting. She gave us matches. She gave us a match for each person to break. She said, grab this match and break it with your thumb. And we did. We broke it. And then she gave us 4 matches. And she said, grab it in your hand and try to break it. And although we did break it, but it was much, much harder. She said, do you feel a difference between breaking 1 match and breaking 4? And we're like, oh yeah, of course. 4 is much harder. And she said, if you stick together, you have a chance. But if you're going to be fighting the way you're fighting, Father will break you like a match. And we thought about like, She left and we bonded like no tomorrow. We all of a sudden had a common enemy. Nothing bonds people more than the common enemy. My father became this enemy, and he's at home. And in order for us to practice being witnesses, we kind of had to fight for it. We had to lie to him. We had to coordinate our stories. He was freaking out if he would find out that we're preaching. So we had to bond really closely and basically treated him like an enemy at home. Which is horrible when you think about it, but that's how he was. We thought that we're doing the right thing. We're fighting for our freedom of religion and freedom of worship. Interestingly enough, later on, we all the kids left and we ended up in Canada. My father stayed in Poland. He passed away already. But I remember until today, the moment I woke up and I realized if I start telling kids anything different than what I know as witness, I will become like my father. I will become like him because my wife will not give up and she was not waking up. And if she turns the kids against me, I don't know if the marriage will last. My parents' marriage didn't last. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to have still contact with my kids. Because if they leave the house and if they get baptized and if I'll get this fellowship, even if I don't get this fellowship, if I leave the religion, if I fade away, they will treat me like I don't exist. That was really tough. I think that was the toughest thing out of the whole situation, is to try to figure it out, what to do, what to say, what not to say, how to communicate with your wife about what to tell your kids. Will the kids still love you? Will they treat you as an enemy in your own home? Will they start lying to me? Will they start hiding from me? Just like we did. I really didn't want that to happen. Because I knew that we were all pretending in front of my father. We were like, oh yeah, Dad, everything's great. But then the moment he left home, we're like, he left. And we'd pull out the books, we would do the Bible study, or we would hide our clothes behind the house and would go to service and would lie to him saying, oh yeah, we went to the neighbors to do our homework and come up with stories. And truthfully, you can just imagine what kind of a relationship we had if you have to lie to your own mom and dad. But what do you do now? Well, after I woke up, there was a huge challenge what to do, because we lived now in a religiously divided household. I was no longer a JW. I faded away, and then my wife kept going. And to make things worse, she didn't want me to talk to the kids. Like, no. You're going to mess them up. You've spent all this time teaching and reading the Bible and reading the Bible stories and teaching the kids and teaching, taking them to the meetings and teaching them how to preach. And all of a sudden you're going to tell them it's all wrong? No. That's not going to happen, right? From now on, I'm teaching the kids, you're not allowed to say anything. And I'm like, what do you do with that? Do you listen? What if you say no? What's going to happen? What is your partner's going to say? They're going to start lying to you. They're going to start hiding from you. They're going to turn the kids against you. I'll tell you one thing. No matter how different you are between you and your spouse, never ever try to turn your kids against your spouse. I don't care if you guys are divorced. I don't care if you hate each other. Never do that. That's one thing that I remember like it was yesterday when my father was complaining about my mom and how bad she is. We never thought that my mother was bad. We only thought my father is bad for saying those things about my mother. And then reverse, when my mother was saying bad things about my father, automatically we were thinking bad things about her for saying bad things about our father. Never try to turn the kids against their mother or father. They will turn against you because of it. At the same time, You do have a right to teach your kids whatever you believe is right. So when I had to make the decision, I told my wife, I love you very much, but I'm going to teach the kids what I believe is right. And you have the same right. And I'm not going to stop you. You cannot stop me, and I will not stop you. You have a right to teach them whatever it is that you believe is right and good for them. But I have the same right. It has to go both ways. And she's just like, oh, you're going to mess them up. And then you've been saying them one thing, and what are you going to tell them? That you lied to them? I'm like, no, I'm going to tell them I was mistaken. We all make mistakes. They're going to make their mistakes. And guess what? They're going to actually appreciate the fact that I'm going to explain to them that I was wrong and I got more information and now I believe something different because I got more evidence, I got more knowledge, I got more experience. And they're going to change their mind based on the more knowledge and experience. And that's what I want them to learn. It wasn't an easy transition. But eventually, I'm glad that my wife woke up and then we were both on the same page. But the kids, how did the kids take it? Well, instead of me telling you how they took it, I'm going to actually ask my kid to explain it to you. Watch this. All right, I brought you an expert of children's transition. This is Skylar, my kid, and I wanted to bring her on because it is one thing to hear it from me and totally different hearing to actually from her. When we were transitioning, we were really concerned about how kids would react to the transition between being a witness to not being a witness. Of course, there is fear because we were worried about, what we've been teaching our kids for so long, studying with them, telling them stories, reading the Bible, reading the magazines, preparing them for the Watchtower. At the same time, there was like 27 kids in our congregation under the age of 18, which was a lot. They were like this, very close, right? Plus, we have cousins, right? Like you have cousins, and you were really close to them because they're the same age. My sister has twins, the same age, literally, 10 days?
11
Everyone
days
thought
older. We were triplets.
And we were living in a triplex, so they were living right above our heads, so we were very close. And all of a sudden, we are going for a transition. It was not easy. So I wanted to ask you a few questions. First, tell me, how did you react when you found out that we were kind of questioning the religion? And
it was a little weird because I didn't really understand it. I was just like, oh, things are a little weird. I don't have to go to the Kingdom Hall. Yay, I get to stay home. I not miss all this fun stuff after school.
So you didn't complain about not going to the Kingdom Hall and not going door to door?
I just complained about not being able to see my cousins.
Okay, so...
Oh, and my friends in the Kingdom Hall.
How old were you back then? Do you remember?
No.
8, 10, something like that?
Yeah.
It was a process.
It
took at least few years. So, so tell me this. There was one time when we went to see my sister and you were playing with your cousins.
Yeah.
Tell me what happened when kids came over.
Oh, okay. So these neighbors that were also in their school came over. They were walking by and they start talking to my cousins. And it was really weird because my cousins pulled me aside and is like, oh, don't talk to them. They're worldly. I didn't know what that meant. I was like, cool, okay. Don't talk to them. And right after they said that, they go over to the friends and they're like, oh my gosh, hey, how are you? You want to see our hamsters? And I'm like, what? Like, aren't we not supposed to talk to them? And then they bring out their hamsters, they start playing, and I don't talk to them. But, like, they're talking to each other, and I was so confused. And I asked them about it later, and they just avoided it completely. They're like, oh, no, don't worry, it's fine. Like, don't worry about it. Let's just go to the park.
Okay. So, there was another situation I wanted to ask you about. You and Mom, you went to the convention. right?
Yeah.
Now, at that moment, I was no longer going to the meetings. I was completely out. My wife was still taking the kids, but she was PMO, physically and mentally out. What happened when you met your cousins?
I walked up, like I was walking towards them, and they were with with my grandma, and I waved to them. I'm like, "Oh, hey!" And then one of them turns around, but the other one, because they're twins, the other one's like, "Oh my goodness, hi!" And then her sister, the one who turned around, pulls her and like physically turns around. Is like, "We don't talk to them." And I'm just like, "What?" Like, I haven't seen you in so long. Like, what happened? And then we actually start talking. And then they're like, "Oh, you changed. Like, you're so much happier. You're more enthusiastic. Like, what happened?" And I was like, "Oh, I didn't even realize. Oh, okay. Like, that's cool. I don't know."
But it was odd because they were really scared of you.
Yeah,
right?
they were like, they turned their back on me completely. Like, they were just like, "Nope."
It was interesting. I wasn't there, but it was interesting to hear the whole incident that took place, how they were literally trained to be afraid of you.
Yeah.
Right?
It was really sad because I was like, "What?" Like, I was like, "We haven't seen each other in a while. But, like, you don't have to turn away from me."
Yeah.
Like, goodness, why are you doing that?
And that happened at Love Never Fails conventions.
Once Mom mentioned that, she's like, "Isn't this a wonderful topic? Love never fails." My cousin who turned away was like, "Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, it is a wonderful topic."
But here's what I wanted to know. You lost some friends in the congregation.
Yeah.
Obviously, you lost the cousins you were close with. But in the perspective of time, do you find the transition to be beneficial for you or no?
Yes.
Why?
Because I probably would have by now I probably would have understood the worldly part of it, and I wouldn't be able to have some of the friends I have now, or I wouldn't be able to hang out with them as much, things like that.
True.
And also I would be very bored going door to door. It would suck. I don't want to do that. That would not be fun. And also I don't get to celebrate things that I would like celebrating.
You like celebrating things now?
Yeah. I love Halloween so much. So much.
Tell me, okay, what would you say to parents who are still stuck in a religion and they're afraid of leaving because they're worried about their kids?
Don't do it all at once. Don't explain it all at once. Just go slowly. Just ease into it. They don't really understand what's happening. And explain it. Don't just let it happen. Just explain it as you go. Because I didn't understand what was happening. I was so confused. I was just like, "Oh, okay. We're doing that now? Cool. Woo."
I remember myself, I was very confused because on one hand, I was teaching you guys, telling you Bible stories pretty much every night, right? What's right, what's wrong, based on the Bible and based on the Bible principles. And all of a sudden, I'm like, well, not everything that I was teaching you is accurate, right? And it was odd for me too. But did you think of your parents any less because we changed the religion, we changed our beliefs?
No, I honestly didn't really realize that was happening. I just thought, "Oh, we're doing stuff now. We're celebrating more. We're hanging out more, kind of. I guess we would go out and do stuff together more, and we would talk to each other more, but without talking about the religion. I felt when we talked, it was a lot of about the religion.
Yeah.
But it was more now personal, and I was it was great. Yeah. I didn't really think less of you guys. It was just funner. Things just got better.
What about your friends? Do you feel like you're missing out?
With my friends at school and stuff now?
Yeah, with the friendships, because you had friendships at the Kingdom Hall, you had cousins and whatever, right?
Well,
you lost all of them.
Yeah, I mean, my friendships in the Kingdom Hall, they were kind of interesting because some of them would just ask me specifically about "Oh, why were you late to come today?" I was like, I what do you mean? They were like, "You're always late when you come to the Kingdom Hall." why are you late when you come to meetings? I'm like, I don't know. Like, we're slow at getting ready.
I guess you were not driving at the age of 8.
And they were like, all I got was like interrogated by people. And they were like, oh, why'd you show up late? I'm like, oh, we just did.
Okay. So you don't miss that?
I don't miss that. I do kind of miss like the parties we would have and stuff. And like the videos we would do.
Yeah. We did a lot of those videos. Yeah, we had picnics and we had parties.
Yeah. I got a lot of freezies. I miss the freezies.
But when the stuff that you replaced it with, you think it was worth it?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of your children.
We don't bite sometimes. Some of us don't bite.
But parents are afraid what to tell their children. They're concerned what to say, what not to say, how the kids will react. And especially because a lot of kids, when they're making up their mind, they might be shunned. The parents might be shunned by their kids, right? Do you think the parents should just let them be or explain what they think? Okay, let me ask you this. If one parent is still a Jehovah's Witness and the other one is not, do you think it's okay for the one who left to share the beliefs with the kids? Even though they're opposites to what the mom is teaching. Let's say that dad, like in my case, dad was not a believer and then mom was a believer. Was it okay for both of us to teach you what was contradictory to each other?
I think it's like you would have to talk, like the two parents would have to talk and then figure out like let's say like mom, she would have to tell you like, I don't feel comfortable with you telling my kids that, right?
Okay.
It's like, it would feel like, I feel like it would, like you would have to talk to each other and then be like you would have to say like, yeah, but I don't believe that and I don't want my like our kids to believe that either. It's really complicated. I feel like it just depends on the parents.
It is complicated.
It is very complicated. Yeah, I mean, I guess the parent like who left would have to kind of talk to the kid, but not like fully be like, this is all BS, like it's trash, it's garbage, don't believe any of that. It'd be like, oh, you can open up your minds to things, like accept other information.
Right.
Like you'd have to be like, oh, you can learn other stuff, like your brain isn't limited. Like that's what you'd have to talk about instead of going straight ahead and being like, oh, all of this is messed up, here's new information. Be like, you can accept information. You can, that's possible. You're able to do that.
I guess teaching them how to think, not what to think, is more important.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I love that. Okay. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.
Goodbye.
Bye. In conclusion, I would say this. Kids are smarter than what we think they are. They are. And of course, depending on their age. But I would just tell them straight from your heart. Kids can feel energy. And they know if you're genuine or not. They're really smart. A lot more than what we give them credit for. Teach your kids how to think. Not necessarily what to think. They will choose their own path. And might not be the same like yours. They might wake up one day and tell you, you know what, mom? You know what, dad? I decided to be X, Y, and Z. And there's nothing you're going to do about it. Teach them what is unconditional love. Tell them that you're going to love them no matter what. No matter what path they choose, no matter what religion they choose, no matter what they're going to choose to believe, you're going to love them and treat them the same. That it's not a matter of a religious status, that your love is conditional, like Jehovah's Witnesses have. That you're going to love them no matter what. That's what they need to know. The two things, the most important, is unconditional love and critical thinking. If you teach them that, then you're winning. Plus, if you want your kids to grow into a good human beings, you got to teach them good values. If you don't teach them religions anymore or the beliefs, sometimes we don't know what to teach them. Well, we got to teach them how to think. Not what to think, but how to think. And we got to teach them values. The values that we see as the most important. Love, caring, knowledge, intelligence, freedom, critical thinking. Those things are very important. And teach them values and you'll see that they will grow into their own humans, their own human beings, and they'll choose their own path. It's not going to be the same like yours, but it's okay. You don't want them to be a copy of you. You want them to be happy on their own path. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.